You're standing in your kitchen. It is just a totally average, unremarkable morning. A dog barks somewhere down the street, a crow yells from a branch, an ant is hustling under the fridge. You take a sip of lukewarm coffee and scroll through your feed. To you, all these sounds and movements are just wallpaper, the background noise of the world that you learned to ignore back in childhood. You call it nature. A meaningless, random soundtrack to play while you stress about your taxes or what to eat for dinner. But what if, right now, in this exact second, someone is transmitting precise coordinates? What if someone is calling out a stranger's name? What if someone is screaming for help or memorizing your face to tell their friends about it later? You are standing there with your mug in the middle of an unbelievably dense web of information, absolutely convinced you are the only intelligent person in the room. But the world was never silent. We are just terrible translators. Humans are endlessly narcissistic creatures. We're used to thinking we are the only legitimate broadcasters on the radio station called Earth. We look for speech. We demand nouns, verbs, syntax, and clear articulation. We need someone to walk up to us, politely clear their throat, and say in plain English, "Hello, I would like to eat." And since animals don't do that, for thousands of years, we just assumed they were complex biological toys, automatons with a set of pre-installed reflexes. We decided that an animal sound is just system exhaust, a symptom of fear or hunger with no actual meaning, like a stomach rumbling. But that is our problem. We are the ones walking into a foreign network with the wrong password, genuinely surprised that we can't get a connection. Animals aren't quiet. They are constantly throwing massive blocks of data, social rules, and warnings back and forth. We classified it as noise solely because it didn't use our alphabet. Let's look at elephants. Huge, slow, walking gray mountains. We usually view them as majestic but mute, safari decorations. They trumpet sometimes, and we figure it's just a random burst of overwhelming emotion. But researchers recorded their low-frequency rumbles, the ones human ears can barely pick up, and found something disturbing. Elephants use individual acoustic tags. Simply put, they have names. One elephant makes a specific, unique set of sounds directed at exactly one other individual, and that individual responds. They aren't just shouting, "I'm here," into the void. They are saying, "Hey, Bob," and Bob is answering. Think about the scale of that. Giant creatures are wandering across a dusty plain, maintaining targeted communication, calling each other by name. They are managing social ties and updating statuses. You sit in your Jeep thinking, "Wow, such peaceful silence." Meanwhile, you are parked in the middle of a busy conference call. Your receiver just isn't tuned to the frequency. If elephants feel too distant, look at crows, a bird that definitely lives in your neighborhood and routinely digs through your garbage. We are used to their harsh cawing, but hiding behind that noise is a surveillance system that would make the CIA jealous. If you scare or wrong a crow, it doesn't just fly away, it memorizes your face. You can change your clothes, put on a different jacket, alter your walk, it doesn't matter. Your biometric profile is saved. But that's not the creepy part. The creepy part is that it will transmit your description to the others. You could walk outside on the completely opposite side of town, and birds that have never seen you before will start aggressively yelling at you. They literally sent your picture across their internal network. To them, you are a known threat with an active file. Even worse, a crow knows when it is being watched. If it's burying food and notices another bird looking, it will pretend to bury the food in one spot while secretly hiding it in another. Think about what that requires. To pull that off, the crow has to understand the concept of another mind. It has to realize that bird has its own eyes and its own thoughts. It wants my food, so I will construct a false reality for it. That is an instinct. That is espionage and counterintelligence. They are reading minds while you think they are just looking for breadcrumbs. We have always been obsessed with brain size. We assume a tiny brain means nobody is home, just emptiness and basic scripts. A Florida carpenter ant has a brain the size of a grain of sand. It's barely a brain, really, just a tiny cluster of neurons. But when an ant gets injured in battle, its comrades don't leave it to die. They walk over and inspect the wound. If it's at the end of the leg, they clean it. But if the wound is high up on the femur, carrying a severe risk of infection, the ants make a different choice. They bite the leg completely off. They perform a surgical amputation to save their friend's life. They don't have medical schools. They never took the Hippocratic Oath, but they analyze the damage, assess the risks, choose a treatment plan, and successfully execute surgery in the dirt, right under your shoe. Or take bumblebees, fat, clumsy bugs constantly flying into windows. Scientists found that they can use small wooden balls as tools to get food. They roll them. They learn how to do it from watching each other, and sometimes they do it just for fun, to play. You look at them and see stupid flying fuzz. They are actually engineers, mastering new objects and passing knowledge down a social chain. But let's go back inside your house. Your dog. We condescendingly throw a toy and say, "Who's a good boy?" We are completely certain dogs are just reacting to our tone of voice. Happy voice equals wagging tail. Strict voice equals pinned ears. We view it as a basic acoustic reflex. But science shows dogs understand the actual concept of representation. When you say the word ball, the neural image of a ball lights up in the dog's brain. They understand that the specific, weird noises coming out of your mouth are hardwired to a specific physical object in reality. They aren't just getting excited by the noise. They are decoding your lexicon. They spent thousands of years hacking our code, learning our vocabulary, and figuring out how to read our stress chemistry through microscopic changes in the smell of our sweat. They understand us. Meanwhile, we, the proud owners of the biggest brains, still don't know what most of their barks mean. We buy them squeaky rubber sausages and think it's the absolute peak of communication. And now we go down to the darkest level. Octopuses. Alien-like creatures whose neurons aren't grouped in one head, but spread out across all 8 arms. We always knew they were smart. They are brilliant at puzzles. They unscrew jars from the inside. They break out of aquariums, but only after short-circuiting the security cameras with a precise jet of water. But for a very long time, we refused to admit something much more terrifying about them. They feel pain. They don't just reflexively pull a tentacle away from a hot surface like a cheap robot vacuum. They experience subjective, personal suffering. They remember the exact location where they were hurt. They cradle and protect an injured limb. They experience trauma. Pain isn't some elite feature reserved only for things with a spine. It is an ancient, universal mechanism, and octopuses have the full package. And here is the horror of it. For thousands of years, we dragged them out of the water, cut them to pieces, and boiled them alive, completely comfortable in our belief that they were just seafood. Because they don't scream. They don't cry tears we can recognize. And if there is no scream we can decode, then there is no pain. We built a highly convenient, bulletproof illusion. Silence equals an absence of feeling. We slaughtered things capable of deep existential suffering simply because their radio station broadcasted on a frequency our receivers ignored. There is no cute moral here about how we are all brothers in nature. There is no Disney magic where the animals gather in a forest clearing to sing a song. Reality is much stranger, colder, and more paranoid. You live in a world overflowing with data. Every single second, gigabytes of information are rushing past your head. Names, warnings, survival instructions, surgical protocols, fear, pain, memory, and lies. Elephants are paging each other across the savannah. Crows are updating databases with the faces of their enemies. Ants are performing battlefield amputations. Dogs are reading your true intentions through the micro-expressions on your face while you stare at your phone screen. The next time you walk outside, stand in the middle of a park and think about how quiet and peaceful it is. Stop. That isn't silence. It is a dense, continuous, endless conversation that started long before our ancestors even figured out how to hold a stick. The world was never quiet. You are just a deaf tourist who accidentally wandered into a crowded room where everyone is discussing serious business. You stand right in the middle, smiling smugly, thinking, wow, it's so nice that nobody is here. But they are all here, and they have been talking the entire time. You just don't know the code.